Good evening. My name is Clint Richmond. As I said, I've come from Massachusetts, your neighbors to the north, in a common cause. We're looking to create sustainable communities that are free from cancer and toxins, free from trash and litter, and free from fossil fuels. Like you, I'm coming sort of as a peer, as a person who lives in a town, New England's kind of basic unit of government, to another town in our sister state of Rhode Island. As Kate mentioned, I serve on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for my town, which is appointed by our select board. And our goal, like many solid waste managers, is zero waste. We don't really want any waste at all. This will have the benefits of saving municipalities money from having to dispose often troublesome products, as well as climate impacts. In order to reach this target, everything needs to be reusable, compostable, or recyclable. Things that don't fit into these categories should have programs whereby producers take back these products. And one of the most problematic categories of waste is indeed plastics. They only appeared in the 1980s and have grown rapidly ever since. They have replaced the natural materials that I grew up with. I'm 63, and when I was young, all materials were glass, paper, or metal, and it didn't matter if something was littered because it was compatible with the environment. And if a glass bottle broke into little shards, it would return to sand. And these products are heavy and they are relatively valuable in many ways as recycling. Plastics can have value, but they're light and they require a large volume. And there are many types of them, and it's difficult to separate them. And much of it is downcycled, that's kind of a technical term, into other products, turned into other products, which are even more problematic, like carpet backing or plastic lumber, which there are no programs for recycling those. And some of these types, like polystyrene and polyvinyl chloride, some of these materials and some of these products, like straws and utensils, are not recyclable, no matter how much you wish for them to be recycled. So please don't put them in your recycling at curbside or at your transfer stations. And all plastics are toxic upstream, and we need to take responsibility for this consumption, for those who work and live in the refining and manufacturing plants. There's a term, it doesn't apply to Barrington, but when I drove down here from Providence, I passed ExxonMobil, and workers who work in these community plants, and the communities that are adjacent to these plants, they call them fence line communities. And Brookline and Barrington are not one of them, but we are causing those impacts, often severe negative health impacts upstream. And as we all know, especially here in Barrington, as a coastal community, that these plastics can cause a huge litter problem, harming wildlife and their habitats, and the ocean. Which is one reason why coastal communities like Barrington have taken the lead on plastic bags and now polystyrene. So I'm here to talk a little bit about some of the alternatives, and the way some of it's back to the future. Products like this is not a great example, but this is a lid that goes on an aluminum tray, a circular tray, and this would be a more sustainable option than a polystyrene or polyethylene terephthalate container. There are new options that didn't exist really when I was a little boy, like this sort of salad box. You can get it as a salad bar. So this is paper, this is compostable. There's this kind of plate, which again is an innovation, a recent innovation in packaging and food serviceware. This is made by a company here in Waltham, Massachusetts, here, but up the road a ways. And it's made of sugarcane waste. So, and then there are yet more novelties and amazing things that have been developed by our engineers and scientists. Bioplastics, which are made of plant material, and they use that as the input instead of fossil fuels to create more complicated synthetic materials, but they have a magical quality about them, which is they can be composted in an industrial facility, a high temperature, not your backyard necessarily, take a long time, but in an industrial facility of the kind which is required now for many institutions. I believe Rhode Island has a mandatory composting regulation. I think it's 2 tons a week or 2 tons a month. I can't remember. Anyway, it's like double what it is in Massachusetts. We're like 1 ton a week or something like that. So large institutions, schools, high schools with 1,000 students are required to compost, and they have access in many cases to facilities that can compost these more benign synthetic plastic materials. This is made out of a plastic called polylactic acid. And these have labels. I collect them instead of, the baseball cards of my youth. Now I'm collecting plastic products. And I got this at a chain, a small national chain called Sweet Cream. I don't even know it's originated in Washington, D.C. They now have branches in Massachusetts. I don't know where else. But they only have one trash can there. It's the composting bin. So everything there can be composted. And there are similar options, other lids. You can see there's choice, different companies. Some are see-through, some are more opaque, if that's what you want. Here's a condiment cup. This is more traditional. When I went to Ojo's, I was like, boy, this is what Castle came in. It didn't come in polyethylene, terephthalate, or polystyrene. Here's a fork. All right, the dream is reusable. Right? Again, when I went to the restaurant, even something as lowly as a Ojo's, they had metal utensils. We should return to that. But if that's not an option, or if that's not, the direction that the owner wants to take, there's now compostable plastic utensils, and this is made out of potato starch. Here's a straw. This is a paper straw. Again, back to my youth. Here's something that's a little bit more innovative. We didn't have these when I was little. This is a little bamboo, like ice cream spoon or a condiment or something. So we have a lot of options. I think that as we'll hear from our restaurateur, that it's possible to make this change, that it would be better for the community, and that there are ways to dispose of it, ways that will have a lower impact in terms of the environment and the workers and neighbors of the places where these are manufactured. So that's more or less all I needed. Wanted to say, you're welcome to come up afterwards after we conclude the formal meeting. If someone wants to come up and look at my little bag of tricks here, of props, you're welcome to do that and talk about these. I know, especially since we have the Economic Development Committee here, that there's questions about the costs. In some cases, these are cheaper, but are more expensive. But again, this is not an expensive item. This is not really what's determining the cost of your meal. So again, defer to you to talk more about those kinds of issues. But it's also important to remember the point I made at the beginning, that we're going to save municipalities money. Because what's happened is that we're kind of victims of our solid waste stream, and that we're having to react to things that we're getting. So, well, I got this, PET container. What can I do with it? It's going to last 1,000 years. So I can throw it away. It can be incinerated. It's not a circular economy. It maybe made some people sick to make it. But and again, at the end of the day, the municipality has to do something with it. And what's happened is that the costs are being shifted from the manufacturers, and the responsibility to the consumer to say, okay, how am I going to dispose of this? And then once they give it to the municipality, they have to say, okay, now we've got it. What are we going to do with it? And in most cases, it's going to be trash. The recycling rates for these are really low. For most plastics, it's 5-10%. For metal, it's much higher. For tin cans, for paper, it's above 50%. It's not 100%. We're still not at zero waste. But we need to, municipalities have the responsibility to say these are bad for our health, and it's costing you as taxpayers a lot of money to handle and process these materials. So that's kind of a rationale for what we're considering here in Maryland. I don't know, Kate, what other, sort of what the format is you want, if you restrictions, or how do you want to handle it?
Well, can you speak to the? It's my understanding that this particular ban does not prevent businesses from using recyclable plastics. That the ban is specific to polystyrene, which and only bans things that are not recyclable. So it, in effect, does prevent businesses from using plastic straws. Is that correct?
Yes, so there's, some of these laws can be a little complicated, I'll admit. So the impetus for these laws has been polystyrene, in particular polystyrene foam, which is incredibly difficult to recycle. It's uneconomic to recycle it. Even no matter how much you want to, you can bring all you want, it's still not practical to recycle it because it's so light. It's 90% air. So you're basically trucking around something that's air. So you can imagine that the economics of that are not very favorable. So and you want to get rid of that one because it is so impractical material. I mean, it performs great. It's a great insulator. I'm not questioning its ability to perform, but in terms of what happens after that and the fact that it's a single-use product is where the problems come in. So you want to get rid of the things that are identifiably bad and really impossible to solve. And now, having done that, you say, well, now what about the alternatives? And we want those alternatives to be recyclable, compostable, or reusable. And because straws, plastic straws, even paper straws can't really be recycled because they're just right? You have to imagine these are like reverse factories. They take all this stuff in and they have to sort it all out. And it has to have certain dimensions in order to capture it. So if you have little, tiny bits of paper, if you have to take this isn't going anywhere. There's no way we can capture this. And there's not much value in it. But it's benign, so if it's littered, it'll just disintegrate, and it won't end up in your oysters at the oyster bar. So there are certain things that are not recyclable. Another one are stirs. There's a plastic stir, impossible to recycle, and it's dyed too. So normally when things are recycled, you prefer something that's clear, so that if you want to reuse it, it comes colorless, so that you can either make the next version colorless, or you can say, all right, maybe I'll make it red. But if it's red and you want it green, well, it's too late because it's got too much dye on it. So anyway, so you want to ban things that are really bad and make the alternatives recyclable, reusable, or compostable. So straws and stirrers and utensils cannot be recycled. So you have to switch to something that has a different end of life, which in this case is going to be compostable, or it still could be reusable. So the other thing that we're seeing are the development of things like reusable straws. So I've been to restaurants and we have some messages where they will serve patrons steel straws and reuse them after they're reused. Clean them after they're reused. And you can sterilize them. So there are glass straws. There's a whole plenitude of alternatives out there that just in the reusable area. But for people that's too complicated or don't want to spend the labor to have that more sustainable option, you can switch to a compostable alternative. So the short answer is yes, today's polystyrene and polypropylene straws, utensils, and stirrers will not be allowed under this ban because they don't meet one of those three end-of-life criteria. Other questions?
I have a question. I'm wondering, in Brookline, we've talked a little bit about some of the options, and for example, our Dunkin' Donuts uses the foam cups. The Starbucks uses paper cups. It's not a hard change to go from the foam cups to the paper. I'm sure there are Dunkin' Donuts out there that are already doing it.
Yes. But only when forced, though. They have a plan where they're going to go out, it's 2021 or something. They're not making a commitment about utensils.
Right. So that one seems to be a relatively simple change because an alternative readily exists. It's being used by competitors. Not a hard choice. But then you're faced with items like when you get meat in the supermarket, it comes in a polystyrene tray. What is Brookline doing about that? Are there alternatives that are being enforced, or is that still allowed?
Well, so most of these laws, because there's so many products, right? If you're in a restaurant or a grocery store, you have to reconsider a large number of products that are used in your products, certain packaging for your products. So there's often written in exemptions or either for hardship or because the product doesn't exist. But I can tell you for meat and vegetable trays, there are plenty of options. So chicken now is typically coming in a polypropylene tray. It's an open thing, or there's cellulosic, paper-based products for vegetables. So when we implemented our polystyrene law in 2012, the stock market chose that. They could have gone with a petrochemical product, but they went with a cellulosic product. And it's made by Cryovac, which is one of the largest packaging manufacturers in the world. So, they're getting into this too because they realize that their customers are asking for more sustainable options. And these are big operations. They have the resources to develop new products. And it's the same distribution channel they're working with today. So they said, okay, you can have the polystyrene foam, or you can have a more sustainable green option. And you can go to their websites and you can see, how they differentiate those offerings. So those are very standard. I mean, there are some products that are a little trickier, so like party platters, which we don't maybe not use as much. You might say, well, there isn't one that's available today, and we talked about this at Brookline and many of our store owners. We went through a multi-year process. We kind of trialed this, and it's a larger community of 60,000. So we've kind of been through this process and heard these questions and been able, I think, to allay any concerns that business owners would have about making this transition. But there are some products where there may not be something today. I guess, and again, unless it's in reusable. The problem with reusables is if it's a party platter, we have to bring the platter back, we're going to have to deposit, or you're going to, send someone out to collect it because it's an aluminum tray, it has some value. You're not just saying, well, if you can't bring it back, just throw it away. We don't want to do that with an aluminum tray or a glass tray. So, you've got the more reusable options, or you can say, maybe there isn't a paper one that works as well, and you say, okay, that's not going to be one where you're going to be required to change.
Does anyone have any questions? If you do, feel free to come up and hopefully know the answers to them. Any questions at all?
Just a comment. I've reached out. I'm originally from Hawaii. I grew up in Maui, and lots of friends and family are still there. And they just implemented this ban on Maui County December 31st. So I've reached out to ask how it's going, and haven't really heard anything back yet. But I know people at town council and people who are restaurant owners and stuff, most of whom were already trying to use sustainable products. So I don't think it's a huge transition for them. But for a lot of local businesses that used a lot of polystyrene clamshell, to-go stuff, it'll be, I'm curious just to see how it's being welcomed. But they had the plastic bag ban way before we did, and it was really successful. And so they've been working. And again, beach communities that care about their wildlife, that care about those things, are kind of ahead of the curve. So I don't know how it's going exactly, but I'd be happy to find out more when I get more information. But their ban's only 2 weeks old.
I just want to make a comment. I heard just before the meeting that the manager from Shaw's had no intention of showing up because apparently it's not an issue for them, even though they will be impacted quite a bit because this includes the sale of plastic bags full of foam cups and polystyrene products that they sell on the shelves, as well as their meat packing and their food packaging. But she apparently said that this isn't going to be an issue because she's just spoken with corporate, and they're already having to do that to the 20, there are 20 communities in Massachusetts?
Well, there's 30 communities in Massachusetts who have polystyrene bans, and then there's usually, as I said, it's usually some adjunct regulation around what happens to the alternatives. Some are as simple as a polystyrene foam ban and just for food packaging, but others like Brookline and Concord and have gone beyond that to address multiple aspects of packaging. I mean, I should point out that here's something that, and I should mention, this came in bulk. I mean, this is like picnic wear. This is not just something, this isn't something that appeared, that I obtained in a restaurant like some of these. And this is a package of heavy-duty compostable bowls. It's sold like a Star Market. So these products are being sold today. You just may not have noticed them. And we're kind of focusing some attention on some of these product choices. But this is a consumer product. You can buy a package of 20 or 30 or whatever of these, so that you don't have, so that your only choice is in a polystyrene plate or bowl.
Yeah, it strikes me, when we did the plastic bag ban, that required a change in behavior by the consumers. And so it took a while, and I'll use myself as an example. I bring the bags and leave them in the car every time for a period of time, and then you go back out to get them, and then eventually you sort of get into that. So it took a little while to change of behavior, to pick up, get the bags, and start to use them. In this case, I don't think the consumer is going to see much of a difference. If you run into the store and you want to buy disposable cups for a party that you're going to get, if the foam cups aren't on the shelves, you're just going to get the paper cups, and you probably won't even think twice about it. If you go into Dunkin' Donuts for a coffee and they give you a paper cup, I'm not sure how many people would even notice. So from a consumer point of view, it seems like a fairly easy adjustment. It's the businesses, one of the reasons we really wanted the Economic Development Committee to look into this. The businesses have to make that adjustment to their supply chains and so on. So, do we have any other questions? Sure.
For us, we have a store with a restaurant, so we sell water bottles, we sell melting bottle, plastic bottle. So we sell a lot of products. Not we serving it, it's just we brought it over the store. So is that allowed to stay on it with this ban or change it?
So
Or this is different?
My understanding is because we can recycle plastic water bottles, that yes, those would still be allowed. But you could not sell foam coffee cups, which, by the way, are release toxins when you add hot liquids to them. Let's not forget that point. And you wouldn't be able to sell the stirs and the plastic straws, but you could sell an alternative if that was, what you wanted to sell. But I'm interested because I know in your case you do supply wonderful hummus and
People don't want to see it.
And
in a big platter.
sections.
But it's my, and that was the platter that I had in my car that you were checking out, because I did return it and you did resupply it. But that would be okay to continue using that, because even though we can't I'm not sure we could put that into the recycling bins, we do accept at our recycling center hard plastic that is carted away to be recycled.
Yeah, under the law, if it's recyclable, it's allowable.
Yeah.
And it's usually things that are packaged on site, so the hummus that you're packaging on site would be affected. But the bottle of water, which you obviously aren't packaging on site, that's unaffected totally by this law. But I mean, I would say that bottled water is not something we want to encourage, but it's not the subject of tonight's regulation.
So we're talking, sorry, I hate to.
No.
we're talking styrofoam or plastic. Because a lot of the packaging we sell, the hummus and stuff like that, it's a seafood plastic. People do not want to buy something they cannot see. And that is a big disadvantage to our community, to the businesses in this area. Shaw's, of course. Shaw's doesn't care. Corporate America, it does whatever it wants, and it's easy for it to replace things. But small business, who just starting or whatever it is, it's not easy. And the cost is not easy either. It's easy to sell something for a certain price and lower the price, but when you add a price to it and make it more expensive, people won't buy it. And that's a fact.
Maybe I can ask a question for Clint and possibly clarify. This is focused on non-recyclable polystyrene. There are clear plastic containers that are not polystyrene, right?
Yes, there's PET, polyethylene terephthalate. Is that included in your ban or not? I don't remember what we included. So I mean, there's three plastics we call what's called a toxic trio. One is polystyrene, there's polyvinyl chloride, and the third is polyethylene terephthalate. It's numbers 6, 3, and 1. So even though they're recyclable, they're still not good for it. But this, depending on how you, I haven't seen the latest draft, if it includes polyethylene terephthalate or not, which has very good clarity. So it's great for those kind of impulse purchases that you want for, at supermarkets you'll see, pre-chopped fruit or celery or carrots or something. These kind of packaged containers. Those are most often polyethylene terephthalate. So in Brookline, we are getting rid of that because of the toxic hazard. But there are alternatives that are perhaps less clear. Like this is a low density polyethylene, not as see-through, but it is still plastic and it is recyclable. So this will still be allowed. There are other communities who are going beyond this and saying, you know what, we don't want any more fossil fuels. We don't want to kill any more animals. And they're getting rid of these things. Like in Berkeley, California, Santa Cruz County in California. But you'll have to look at your law to see if it picked. So polyethylene terephthalate is in there. Yes. So that would not be allowed. But there are some alternatives that do have high clarity. Polylactic acid is pretty clear, but its shelf life is a little different. So I don't know, depending on how long you leave something on the shelf, you might not want to package it in that. So I don't know, it'll depend. But depending again on the exemptions they allow here, they might say, we don't know, we'll give you extra time to think about that, or we'll exempt this. That's somewhat up to how you implement it.
The polyethylene terephthalate is only for food served at restaurants. For food sold in a retail fashion, it's only polystyrene foam.
No, I'm recalling it would apply to this if you're packaging it on site. If you were selling someone else's hummus.
No, it's packaging on site.
Yeah, if you were selling, Cedars hummus or something, that would be allowed because you're not packaging it on site.
So that's another disadvantage.
Yeah.
So you're almost telling us, don't do it yourself. Get it from the corporation.
It again depends on the jurisdiction. And like I said, in California, they've been much more aggressive. They're saying, you know what, it doesn't matter if you're packaging on site or off site, we don't want it because it's not good for us in that sense. But that's not what's happening here. But if you're packaging on site, and it's great, you're making your own. I'm sure it's delicious. You may need to work with your supplier or to find something that will fit under this, unless you qualify for a hardship exemption or something, and that is up to the discretion of your regulatory authority. But in general, as I said, plastics perform really well. They have these downsides, so there's a trade-off there.
unless the town wants to supply us with a display refrigerator, that's fine. $1,000, then that would be okay.
Since you're a small town and you accept, it sounds like you'll take back a party platter. You know, maybe you should start talking about people, if you declare it as reusable and you say, oh, you know, we'll take those back and we'll wash them and reuse them.
Now, we can use it only for the same customer
Yeah.
that wants that. I cannot take something back and give it to another customer. That won't be
That's
fair.
health code.
Yeah.
I think besides these questions or whatever, I would like to give Tim the opportunity to speak to your, I think he might have
Yeah.
additional information for you when he speaks.
I'm still not clear. Is it styrofoam or all plastics?
No, it's 3 plastics. Polystyrene, which is number 6, polyvinyl chloride, which is number 3, and polyethylene terephthalate, which is number 1. And I believe that's what you're using for your hummus.
And when you say
that's what
number
this is.
Yes.
3-1, you're talking about on the labels.
Yeah, the little recycling triangle number is what I'm talking about. It's 1, 3, and 6. The ones that are relatively toxic.
Can you clarify that? It's in the actual ordinance?
Someone handed it to me here. I see it.
Yeah.
It's based on similar to what we had in Brooklyn.
There is all disposable food serviceware that contains polystyrene, polyvinyl chloride, or polyethylene terephthalate.
So it's not just polystyrene foam. It's more than that. A fair amount more.
All
Yes.
this stuff out
There
there.
has a number.
Yeah, but, well, we should add that to the,
Some of them don't have it. I mean, you don't know what this stir is made out of. It has no recycling triangle on it. It doesn't have room for it. And even if they put a triangle on it, it doesn't mean it's recyclable. But it's unidentified, but I can tell you it's I think it's polypropylene. I don't know if it's polypropylene or polystyrene. You can, there's different ways you can tell. I'm not going to go into it.
definitely do that.
So it strikes me as if I were a business and I was told I can't do this, one of the first questions would be, well, what can I do? What's a good alternative? So considering there are 30 communities in Massachusetts and obviously nationwide there's a bunch more, do you know of anyone who has created essentially a best practices?
So this is kind of cheat sheets. So in Brookline, the health
Tim has
inspector
one. Tim has the.
they had them on their smartphones. They said, oh, you need this? This is what you need. Others, like the town of Lee, Massachusetts, the Berkshires, they have a printed guide. And again, they're trying to push people toward the compostable alternatives in general for single use. You know, again, just as with your bag shopping that you were talking about, reusable is better. I mean, glass is another alternative. I know it's much more expensive, but it's a great product, great clarity, no toxicity, no one's dying from glass.
A platter is like, I get
No, not platters.
20, 30 bucks.
Yeah, I know. Then you want it back. But then you can, again, you can say, you know what, you have to pay a deposit on it. If you don't bring it back, we'll buy it.
That becomes a health hazard.
Well,
I mean, we're gonna go back like to the soda bottles, how we could
right.
send
So, I
them
mean,
back and wash them and send them back.
right. So do you have dishwashing facilities on your site?
No.
Should we let Tim?
That's up to you.
Question about exemption, I don't know, it can wait until after, but if Clint wrote this, he might be the one to ask. Right. So in the very first exemption, A, is goods prepared or packaged outside the town.
Yeah.
Could that be why Shaw's is a concern? Because everything on their shelf is prepared or packaged outside of town, and therefore none of this applies.
Well, none. They have a salad bar. They're probably packaging vegetables on site. They may be packaging some meat on site. But, I don't know, big, 5-pound tray of wings maybe packaged off site. I don't know. I mean, we did have a case in Brookline where one of the restaurant, it's a small grocery store, moved their their meat packing to a central facility outside of town. It's not what we want, but at least they understood the message that, we want you to do this. We can't force you to do it outside of town. We don't have jurisdiction, but it has happened. But as I said, there's San Francisco who says, you know what, you can't even sell eggs in polystyrene foam. Doesn't matter where you get it. So it depends on how aggressive you want to be. I would consider this kind of a moderately aggressive law compared to what's been done nationwide, but still in advance of a lot of the 30 communities, even in Massachusetts.